Augusta Savage was one of the most outspoken and prolific artists and educators of her time. Savage was a black woman from the Jim Crow South who faced many hardships to make her way north to New York City during the Great Migration. She dedicated an enormous amount of time and energy to the culture of the Harlem Renaissance, establishing tuition-free studio art programs to the black community. She was incessantly outspoken in response to racial injustices in the art world and often lost patronage because of it. Her life mattered. Her dedication to equitable art education mattered. Augusta Savage was born in Green Cove Springs, Florida in 1892. Her brickyard provided her with access to clay at a young age, but she was often beaten and scolded for creating images of animals her minister father saw as graven images. She was first married at the age of 15 in 1907 to John T. Moore, with whom she became a mother to her only child. She remarried in 1915 to James Savage, whom she divorced sometime in the early 1920s but kept his name. In 1920, she briefly attended Tallahassee State Normal School for Negro students, which would later become Florida A&M University. In 1921, Augusta Savage moved to New York City to become a full-time working artist and professional sculptor, but was encouraged to instead pursue more training at the tuition-free art school Cooper Union. She was originally turned down for acceptance, but proved her worth by sculpting an exceptional portrait overnight, making her one of the first women to be admitted to the prestigious school. She excelled at Cooper Union and completed 2 years of course requirements in only a few short months. Savage not only began her more intense studies upon arrival to New York, but also began her activism. In 1923, she was denied acceptance to a tuition-free summer art education program in Fontainebleau, France. She suspected her denial was based on bias due to her race and decided to expose the selection committee, which was entirely made of white males. Upon further inquiry into the facts surrounding her rejection, it was discovered that the white women who were accepted felt they should not be expected to travel and share quarters with a colored girl. She was quoted to say, "Isn't it rather odd that such people should always suppose that when a colored girl gets a chance to develop her natural powers, it must be that she will want to become white?" And later stated, "Democracy is a strange thing. My brother was good enough to be accepted in one of the regiments that saw service in France during the war, but it seems his sister is not good enough to be a guest of the country for which he fought. How am I to compete with other American artists if I am not given the same opportunity?" Savage was consistently critical of the art world and its lack of support to black artists, often commenting on the absurdity of whites with no experience in the arts, who were often positioned to jury and administer exhibitions of African American art. The political landscape of the Great Depression, combined with her limited financial means, Savage took a new direction toward her contribution to African American art when she opened the Savage Studio of Arts and Crafts in 1932. She initially funded her school in Harlem with her own money, but to facilitate the growth of her school, she wrote grants and received a $1,500 endowment from the Carnegie Foundation. She grew her school first with bringing art education to children and later adults, hiring a staff of additional art educators. The Savage School for Arts and Crafts became the largest tuition-free school in New York by 1934. Savage founded the Harlem Artists Guild and was the first director of the Harlem Community Arts Center, which provided art education to African American artists Jacob Lawrence and Ramar Bearden, among many others. Savage was famously quoted saying, "I've created nothing really beautiful, really lasting, but if I can inspire one of these youngsters to develop the talent I know they possess, then my monument will be in their work." Her most significant work as an artist was created after taking a leave of absence from the Harlem Community Arts Center, when she created Lift Every Voice and Sing, also known as the Harp, inspired by the James Weldon Johnson song of the same name for the 1939 New York World's Fair. A magnificent accomplishment, the harp stood approximately 16 feet tall and was the most visited attraction of the fair. Although the fair made an unknown amount of money selling replicas of her work, Savage herself could not afford to store or ship the sculpture, and it was subsequently destroyed. Augusta Savage was committed to providing a place for African American artists to receive an art education, but is still largely forgotten. Her legacy lives on with retrospectives of her life and work as recently as 2019 at the New York Historical Society in New York City in collaboration with the Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens in Jacksonville, Florida, and within the pedagogy she created and left behind, which was built to address and dispute racial oppression.